Blood stained the floorboards of the Silver Spur Saloon as Sophia Montgomery stared down the barrel of Jackson Wheeler's pistol, wondering how a simple card game had spiraled into a death sentence for her and three women she'd only just met. It was 1876, in the unforgiving town of Broken Ridge, Wyoming Territory, where a woman's life was worth less than the whiskey served in the establishments that lined the dusty Main Street. "You cheating whores ain't going nowhere," Wheeler snarled, his gold tooth gleaming in the dim lamplight as he gestured toward the cellar door with his gun. "Get down there before I put bullets in all of you." Sophia's hands trembled as she clutched her small leather coin purse. "We didn't cheat, Mr. Wheeler, I swear on my mother's grave." "Save your breath, woman," Wheeler spat. "I know what I saw." Wheeler's two cronies, Jasper and Emmett, chuckled as they kept their guns trained on the other women. Clara Bennett, a schoolteacher with fire in her eyes; Rosalie Thompson, a widow who'd come west seeking fortune; and Elizabeth Parker, a doctor's daughter with delicate hands and a will of iron. "This is absurd," Elizabeth protested, her fine dress now smudged with dirt from the scuffle. "My father will—" "Your father ain't here," Wheeler interrupted. "And once word gets back to him that his precious daughter was caught gambling and cheating men out of their hard-earned money, he might not want you back." Sophia knew better than to argue further. She'd seen men like Wheeler before, cruel, power-hungry, and dangerous when crossed. The four women, strangers united by misfortune, were herded down the narrow wooden stairs into the dank cellar, the door slamming shut behind them. "We'll decide what to do with you ladies in the morning," Wheeler's voice filtered through the wood. "Maybe the sheriff, maybe something else." The lock clicked into place, and Sophia felt her stomach drop. The cellar was cold and musty, barely illuminated by thin shafts of light seeping through cracks in the floorboards above. "I can't believe this is happening," Elizabeth whispered, wrapping her arms around herself. Her blonde hair had fallen from its pins, framing a face pale with fear. Clara paced the small space, her practical boots kicking up dust. "Those bastards. They planned this from the start. They saw four women alone and decided we were easy marks." "We need to find a way out," Rosalie said calmly, though her eyes betrayed her anxiety. "There must be another exit." Sophia ran her hands along the rough stone walls, searching for any weakness. "I've been in worse situations," she said, though it wasn't entirely true. Since leaving Boston 3 years ago after her parents' deaths, she'd faced her share of hardships, but never imprisonment. The women took stock of their prison. A cellar roughly 15 feet square, walls of stone and dirt, floor of packed earth, and ceiling of wooden planks that formed the saloon floor above. Barrels of whiskey lined one wall, and a few crates of supplies were stacked in a corner. "No windows, no other doors. If only I had my hairpin," Elizabeth muttered, patting her disheveled coiffure. "Would that help?" Sophia asked, pulling a long pin from her own auburn hair. She handed it to Elizabeth, whose eyes widened. "Perhaps. I used to unlock my father's study when I was a child." Elizabeth took the pin with newfound determination and moved toward the door. As Elizabeth worked on the lock, Sophia studied her fellow captives. Clara was tall and strong, with dark hair cut practically short, unusual for a woman, but fitting for her no-nonsense demeanor. Rosalie had the tired eyes of someone who had seen too much sorrow, but her hands were steady as she searched the shelves for anything useful. And Elizabeth, despite her fine clothes, showed a resourcefulness that belied her privileged appearance. "Ladies," Sophia said softly, "while we wait, perhaps we should introduce ourselves properly. I'm Sophia Montgomery. I was passing through town on my way to California." "Clara Bennett," the schoolteacher replied curtly. I teach at the school in Clearwater, the next town over. Came here to buy books." "Rosalie Thompson," the widow offered. "My husband died in the mines last year. I've been running our small farm alone since then." "Elizabeth Parker," said the blonde, still working on the lock. "My father is Dr. Parker of Denver. I was on my way to visit my aunt in Montana when our stagecoach broke down." Sophia nodded. "Now, how did we all end up in that card game?" "Wheeler approached me at the hotel," Elizabeth explained. "Said a private game was happening and that ladies were welcome. I've always enjoyed cards and I thought it might be a diversion while waiting for the next stage." "Same here," Clara said. "He made it sound respectable enough." "I needed the money," Rosalie admitted. "The farm is struggling," Sophia sighed. "And I should have known better. I've seen men like him before." A commotion from above interrupted their conversation, raised voices, the sound of breaking glass, and then thundering footsteps. "What's happening up there?" Clara whispered. They fell silent, straining to hear. The footsteps grew louder, moving across the saloon floor directly above them. Then they heard a new voice, deep, commanding. "Where are they, Wheeler?" More shouting ensued, followed by what sounded like a scuffle. Then, unexpectedly, gunshots rang out. The women instinctively huddled together in the corner furthest from the cellar door. Moments later, heavy boots approached the cellar door. The women held their breath. A powerful kick splintered the wood around the lock, and the door flew open. Silhouetted against the dim light from the saloon stood a tall figure in a duster coat, a wide-brimmed hat shadowing his face. He holstered his pistol and stepped down the first few stairs. "You ladies all right?" he asked, his voice softer now, tinged with concern. Sophia found her voice first. "Who are you?" He stepped further into the light, revealing a face weathered by sun and wind, but handsome nonetheless, with clear blue eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. A dark beard, neatly trimmed, framed a serious mouth. "Name's Wade Dawson," he replied, removing his hat in a gesture of respect. "Heard some troubling talk at the livery about Wheeler's plans for you women. Figured I'd intervene." "What happened to Wheeler and his men?" Clara demanded. Wade's expression hardened slightly. "Wheeler's nursing a bullet in his shoulder. His friends decided discretion was the better part of valor and ran off. Sheriff's been notified." "You shot him," Elizabeth gasped. "Only after he drew on me first," Wade explained calmly. "Now, I suggest we get you ladies somewhere safe before those cowards return with reinforcements." Sophia studied him cautiously. In her experience, men rarely helped women without expecting something in return. "Why would you risk your life for 4 strangers?" A faint smile touched Wade's lips. "My mother raised me to believe that true courage is standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Now, shall we go? I've secured rooms at the hotel across town." "Our belongings are still upstairs," Rosalie said, gesturing toward the ceiling. "I'll fetch them," Wade replied, turning to climb the stairs. "Wait here." When he was gone, the women exchanged looks. "Can we trust him?" Elizabeth whispered. Clara shrugged. "Do we have a choice? He did just rescue us." "There's something about him," Sophia mused. "Something different from other men I've encountered out here." Wade returned moments later with their small travel bags and personal items. "Got everything. Now let's move quickly. Word travels fast in a town this small." As they emerged from the cellar into the now empty saloon, Sophia saw evidence of the confrontation: overturned tables, broken glass, and a smear of blood leading toward the door. Wade guided them out through the kitchen at the back, avoiding the main street. "My horse is this way," he said, leading them to a narrow alley. "We'll have to double up. It's not far to the hotel, but I'd rather not take chances." In the moonlight, Sophia could see Wade more clearly. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a lean strength that spoke of a life of hard work. His eyes, even in the darkness, were alert and intelligent. She estimated him to be in his early 30s, though the frontier aged men quickly. Wade helped each woman onto his horse, a sturdy Palomino, and led them through back streets until they reached the Frontier Hotel, a 2-story building that was modest but clean. "I've arranged 2 rooms," he explained as they dismounted. "The proprietor, Mrs. Holden, is a good woman. She won't ask questions." Inside, a gray-haired woman with kind eyes met them at the desk. "These the ladies you mentioned, Mr. Dawson?" she asked quietly. "Yes, madam. Thank you for your discretion." Mrs. Holden handed him 2 keys. "Rooms 3 and 4, top of the stairs. I've put fresh water and some food up there. Figured they might be hungry." Wade handed 1 key to Clara and 1 to Sophia. "Get some rest. I'll be downstairs if you need anything. We'll figure out next steps in the morning." Before he could leave, Sophia touched his arm. "Mr. Dawson, thank you." "Truly?" Something flickered in his eyes, warmth perhaps, or something deeper. "Miss Montgomery, you don't need to thank me for doing what any decent man should do." As he turned to go, Sophia felt a curious sensation in her chest, a flutter of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Interest. Curiosity. Perhaps even attraction. She quickly dismissed it. This was hardly the time for such thoughts. The women settled into their rooms, Sophia sharing with Elizabeth, Clara with Rosalie. As Sophia washed her face in the basin of cool water, Elizabeth sat on the edge of one of the twin beds. "That man," Elizabeth said thoughtfully, "he's not like most cowboys I've encountered." Sophia smiled faintly. "No, he's not." "Did you see how he looked at you?" Elizabeth continued, a hint of teasing in her voice. "Don't be silly," Sophia replied, though she had noticed the way Wade's gaze had lingered on her. "He's just being kind, if you say so." Elizabeth yawned. "What do you think will happen tomorrow?" Sophia sighed as she sat on her own bed. "I don't know, but at least we're safe for tonight." As she lay in the darkness, listening to Elizabeth's breathing grow steady with sleep, Sophia couldn't help but think about Wade Dawson. There was something in his eyes that spoke of experiences beyond the typical cowboy's life intelligence, compassion, perhaps even pain. She found herself wanting to know more about him, even as she reminded herself that getting attached to anyone or anything in her transient life was foolish. Still, as sleep finally claimed her, Wade's face drifted through her mind, and for the first time in years, Sophia felt something like hope stirring in her heart. Morning came with golden light filtering through thin curtains. Sophia woke to find Elizabeth already dressed, her blonde hair neatly arranged once more. "Mrs. Holden brought up fresh water and some clothes," Elizabeth explained, gesturing to a pile of simple but clean garments. "She thought we might want to change." Sophia sat up, running a hand through her tangled auburn hair. That was kind of her. A soft knock at the door revealed Clara and Rosalie, both also dressed in borrowed clothes. "Mrs. Holden says breakfast is ready downstairs," Clara informed them. "Our rescuer is waiting to speak with us." Sophia quickly washed and changed into a simple blue dress that was a bit loose but serviceable. Together, the 4 women made their way downstairs to the small dining room where Wade Dawson sat at a corner table, a cup of coffee before him. He stood as they approached, that same respectful manner evident in his posture. "Ladies, good morning. I trust you slept well." There was something about the way he said it, genuine concern rather than mere politeness, that made Sophia's heart beat a little faster. "As well as could be expected," Clara replied for all of them. "Now, Mr. Dawson, perhaps you could tell us what's happening with Wheeler and his men." Wade gestured for them to sit and waited until Mrs. Holden had served them breakfast before continuing. "Wheeler's been arrested," he explained, his voice low. The sheriff wasn't happy about it, they're old friends, but even he couldn't ignore an attempted kidnapping and false imprisonment. "Will we need to testify?" Elizabeth asked, concern evident in her voice. Wade nodded. "I'm afraid so. The sheriff wants statements from all of you this morning." Rosalie set down her fork. "And then what? Some of us have places to be." "That's what I wanted to discuss," Wade said. "The stagecoach to Clearwater leaves tomorrow morning. Miss Bennett, that would take you home. Miss Parker, you could continue from there to Montana. Miss Thompson, Clearwater's closer to your farm than here." "And me?" Sophia asked quietly. Wade's eyes met hers. "You mentioned California. The westbound stage also leaves tomorrow." Something in his tone made Sophia wonder if he was as neutral about her departure as he seemed. "What about Wheeler's friends?" Clara asked. "Won't they cause trouble?" "They've left town," Wade assured them, "and Wheeler will be locked up for quite some time." "So we're safe," Elizabeth concluded, relief evident in her voice. "Yes, madam," Wade confirmed. "After you give your statements, you're free to go about your business." Sophia studied him over the rim of her coffee cup. "And what about you, Mr. Dawson? What brings you to Broken Ridge?" A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Just passing through, like yourself. I was heading to my brother's ranch near Clearwater when I stopped here for supplies." "So you'll be on the same stage as us tomorrow," Clara noted. Wade nodded. "Appears so." After breakfast, Wade escorted them to the sheriff's office, a small wooden building with a jail attached to the back. Sheriff Harkins was a portly man with a bushy mustache and suspicious eyes that lingered too long on the women. "These the ones that caused all the trouble last night?" he asked Wade, not bothering to address the women directly. Wade's posture stiffened. "These are the ladies who were unlawfully imprisoned by Jackson Wheeler, Sheriff. They're here to give their statements as requested." Harkins grunted. "Fine. One at a time. Rest of you wait outside." Clara went first, her chin held high. When she emerged 20 minutes later, her expression was tight with anger. "That man," she muttered as Elizabeth went in next, "barely wrote down half of what I said, and he had the nerve to suggest we might have led Wheeler on." Wade's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. When all four had given their statements with similar experiences to Clara's, Harkins emerged from his office, cleaning his fingernails with a pocket knife. "That's that, then," he said dismissively. "Wheeler stays locked up until the circuit judge comes through next month. You women are free to go, but I suggest you be more careful about the company you keep in the future." Sophia saw Wade's hand tighten into a fist at his side, but his voice remained controlled. "Thank you for your time, Sheriff. Come, ladies." Outside, in the bright morning sun, Wade finally let his frustration show. "I apologize for the sheriff's behavior. Some men out here still haven't learned proper respect." "It's nothing we're not used to," Rosalie said with a sad smile. "That doesn't make it right," Wade replied firmly. They walked back toward the hotel, the town now fully awake around them. Sophia noticed how people watched them pass, some with curiosity, others with judgment in their eyes. "What will you ladies do today?" Wade asked. "The stage doesn't leave until tomorrow morning." "I need to purchase some things for the journey," Elizabeth said. "I lost my hat in all the commotion." "I could use some provisions as well," Rosalie added. Clara nodded. "And I still need those books I came for." Wade turned to Sophia. "And you, Miss Montgomery?" Sophia hesitated. She had no pressing errands, nothing she needed to buy. The truth was, she had little money to spare for extras. "I think I'll just rest at the hotel. Yesterday was draining." "Would you mind some company?" Wade asked, his voice softer than before. "I've finished my business in town, and I'd be happy to keep watch while the others shop." Sophia felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I would appreciate that, Mr. Dawson." The other women exchanged knowing glances that Sophia pretended not to see. "We'll meet back at the hotel for dinner," Clara decided. "Be careful, Sophia." After the others had gone, Sophia and Wade sat in the hotel's small parlor. A few other guests milled about, but the room was relatively quiet. "You don't need to babysit me, Mr. Dawson," Sophia said with a small smile. "I'm sure you have better things to do." "Wade, please," he corrected. "And there's nothing I'd rather be doing right now." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, and Sophia felt her cheeks warm. "Then, Wade it is, and you may call me Sophia." "Sophia," he repeated, as if testing the name. "It suits you. Beautiful and elegant." Now she was definitely blushing. "You're quite the charmer, Wade," he laughed softly. "Not usually. My brother Sam always says I have the social graces of a grizzly bear." "I find that hard to believe," Sophia replied, finding herself relaxing in his presence. "You've been nothing but a gentleman since we met." "Perhaps you bring out the best in me," he suggested, his blue eyes warm. Sophia looked down at her hands. "You mentioned your brother's ranch. Is that where you live as well?" Wade shook his head. "No, though I visit often. I have my own place about 10 miles north of his. Smaller spread, but it suits me." "A rancher, then, not just a cowboy passing through." "Trying to be," he admitted. "Started with just a few head of cattle 3 years ago, slowly building it up." "That sounds like a solitary life," Sophia observed. Something flickered in Wade's eyes, a momentary vulnerability. "It can be. What about you, Sophia? What awaits you in California?" It was Sophia's turn to feel exposed. "I'm not entirely sure," she confessed. "My parents died 3 years ago. Our home in Boston was sold to pay debts. I've been moving west ever since, working where I can, trying to find something. A place that feels like home again," she said softly. "Somewhere I belong." Wade was quiet for a moment. "That's a worthy quest, and California seems as good a place as any to find it." "Perhaps," Sophia agreed. Though suddenly California seemed very far away and nebulous compared to the solid presence of the man before her. They talked for hours, the conversation flowing easily between them. Wade told her about growing up on a farm in Missouri, about fighting briefly in the war when he was barely 18, about drifting west afterward, and finally saving enough to buy his small ranch. Sophia shared stories of her childhood in Boston, her father's work as a professor, her mother's love of music, and her own journey across the country. "You're remarkably brave," Wade observed when she described traveling alone. "Most women wouldn't dare." Sophia smiled wryly. "I'm not sure it was bravery so much as necessity, and I've learned to be careful present circumstances accepted." "Even the most careful person can find trouble sometimes," Wade said, "especially in towns like this." The afternoon passed quickly, and soon the other women returned, arms full of parcels and faces animated with the simple pleasure of shopping. "The dressmaker had the most beautiful fabrics," Elizabeth gushed as she joined them. "I bought enough to make a new shirtwaist when I reach my aunt's." Clara set down a stack of books. "And I found everything I needed for the school." Rosalie seemed the most pleased of all. "I sold some of my preserves to the general store, made enough to buy seeds for spring planting, and still have some left over." Dinner was a lively affair, with all 4 women in better spirits than the previous night. Wade was attentive to everyone, but Sophia couldn't help noticing how often his eyes found hers across the table, how his smile seemed to deepen when she spoke. As the evening drew to a close, Wade reminded them, "Stage leaves at 8 tomorrow morning. I'll come by at 7 to escort you to the depot." "That's very kind of you," Elizabeth said, "but surely not necessary in daylight." "I'd feel better seeing you safely off," Wade insisted. "After everything that's happened." The women retired to their rooms, and as Sophia prepared for bed, Elizabeth gave her a knowing look. "He's quite taken with you," she observed. Sophia busied herself with brushing her hair. "We've only just met." "Sometimes that's all it takes," Elizabeth said wisely. "My parents knew on their first meeting that they were meant for each other." "We're both heading in different directions tomorrow," Sophia reminded her and herself. "Whatever connection we might feel is impractical." Elizabeth shrugged as she climbed into bed. "Life rarely arranges itself for our convenience, Sophia. Sometimes we have to rearrange our plans to accommodate what life brings us." Sophia had no answer for that, and soon Elizabeth's soft breathing indicated she had fallen asleep. But Sophia lay awake, thinking about Wade Dawson and the unexpected warmth he had brought into her life. For years, she had been drifting, untethered. The idea of changing course was both terrifying and exhilarating. Morning arrived too quickly. Sophia dressed with care in her own clothes, which Mrs. Holden had kindly laundered. She packed her small bag, ensuring everything was in order for the journey ahead. Wade arrived precisely at 7, dressed in clean clothes, his hat in his hands. "Ladies, good morning. Ready for your journey?" There was something in his voice, a slight strain that made Sophia wonder if he was as conflicted about their parting as she was. The walk to the stagecoach depot was quiet, each woman lost in her own thoughts. The town was just coming to life, shopkeepers opening their doors, a few early risers heading to the cafe for breakfast. At the depot, the stagecoach was already waiting, luggage being loaded onto the roof by the driver and his assistant. 6 horses stamped impatiently in their harnesses. "Looks like a full coach today," Wade observed, nodding toward several other passengers waiting nearby. Clara approached the ticket window first, purchasing her fare to Clearwater. Elizabeth and Rosalie followed, doing the same. Then it was Sophia's turn. She stood before the ticket agent, suddenly hesitant. "One way to—" she began, then paused. "Miss," the agent prompted. Sophia felt Wade's presence behind her, solid and reassuring. "One way to Clearwater," she finished, surprising herself. She turned to find Wade watching her, a question in his eyes. "I thought you were headed to California," he said softly as she moved away from the window. Sophia took a deep breath. "I've been thinking. Perhaps I should see more of Wyoming before continuing west." Clearwater sounds like a pleasant town. The hope that bloomed on Wade's face made her heart skip. "It is," he agreed. "Small but growing. Good people for the most part." "And it's near your ranch," Sophia added, holding his gaze. Wade stepped closer, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Sophia, I don't want to presume, but I've enjoyed our time together more than I can say. If you're staying in Clearwater for a while, I'd very much like to continue our acquaintance." Sophia smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. "I'd like that too, Wade." The stagecoach driver called for passengers to board. The moment of parting had arrived. Clara embraced Sophia warmly. "I'm glad you'll be coming to Clearwater. We can look out for each other." Elizabeth hugged her next. "Follow your heart," she whispered, "and write to me in Montana. I want to know how this story unfolds." Rosalie squeezed her hand. "Life takes unexpected turns. Sometimes they're the best ones." The women boarded the coach, Wade helping each one up the step. When it was Sophia's turn, he held her hand a moment longer than necessary. "Safe journey," he said. "I'll be riding alongside for most of the way." Sophia's eyebrows rose. "You're not taking the stage," Wade patted the revolver at his hip. "I prefer to have my own horse. Gives me freedom to move if needed. The road to Clearwater isn't always safe." This was a side of Wade she hadn't considered, the frontiersman, capable and vigilant. It only increased her admiration. The journey to Clearwater took most of the day. The stagecoach bounced and rattled over rough roads. the passengers swaying together in the confined space. Occasionally, Sophia would glimpse Wade through the window, riding steady beside them, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon. When they stopped to change horses at a way station, Wade approached as the passengers stretched their legs. "Everything all right?" he asked, his question directed at all of them but his eyes on Sophia. "Just stiff," Clara complained. "I'd forgotten how uncomfortable these coaches are." "Not much further now," Wade assured them. "Another 3 hours if the roads are good." Those 3 hours seemed to stretch endlessly. The coach grew hot in the afternoon sun, and dust filtered through every crack and crevice. By the time they reached Clearwater, Sophia was exhausted, her dress damp with perspiration, her hair falling loose from its pins. Yet when she stepped down from the coach and saw Wade waiting, all discomfort faded. Clearwater was larger than Broken Ridge, with more substantial buildings and signs of prosperity: a proper church with a steeple, a 2-story schoolhouse, several shops with glass windows. "Welcome to Clearwater," Clara said, standing beside Sophia as they surveyed the town. "It's not much, but it's home." "It looks lovely," Sophia replied sincerely. Rosalie collected her bags. "I need to find transportation to my farm. It's about 5 miles east." "The livery can arrange that," Wade told her. "I'd offer to take you myself, but my horse has had a long day." "No need," Rosalie assured him. "I'll manage." She hugged each woman goodbye. "Thank you all for your companionship. Please visit my farm anytime you're passing by." Clara turned to Sophia. "There's a decent boarding house on Elm Street. Mrs. Winters is strict but fair. I can show you the way." Wade stepped forward. "Actually, I was hoping to invite Miss Montgomery to dinner first, if she's amenable." Sophia felt a flutter of anticipation. "I would like that." Clara smiled knowingly. "Then I'll take your bag to Mrs. Winters and secure you a room. You can come by afterward." Once Clara had gone, Wade offered Sophia his arm. "There's a small restaurant at the hotel. Nothing fancy, but the food is good." The restaurant was indeed simple but clean, with checkered tablecloths and fresh flowers in small vases. They were seated at a corner table, away from the few other diners. "So," Wade said once they had ordered, "what made you decide to stop in Clearwater?" Sophia considered her answer carefully. "I've been traveling for so long, always moving, never staying anywhere long enough to form connections. When I met you and the others, it reminded me what it's like to feel part of something." Wade's eyes softened. "I understand that feeling. After the war, I drifted for years, never putting down roots. It wasn't until I found my piece of land that I started to feel anchored again." "Tell me about your ranch," Sophia encouraged. Wade's face lit up as he described his property: the sturdy cabin he'd built with his own hands, the creek that ran through the northern pasture, the small herd of cattle he was carefully breeding for quality. "It sounds wonderful," Sophia said when he finished. "Peaceful." "It is," Wade agreed, "though sometimes too quiet. That's why I visit my brother's place often. He has a wife and 3 children, never a dull moment there." "You're close to your family," Wade nodded. "Sam's the only family I have left. Our parents died years ago." "Like mine," Sophia said softly. Their food arrived: simple fare of roast beef, potatoes, and greens, but prepared well and plentiful. As they ate, the conversation continued to flow easily between them. "What will you do in Clearwater?" Wade asked. "Will you stay long?" Sophia set down her fork. "I'm not sure yet. I have some savings, enough to last a while if I'm careful. I'll need to find work eventually." "What kind of work do you do?" "Whatever's available," Sophia replied with a small smile. "In St. Louis, I worked as a shop assistant. In Kansas City, I did bookkeeping for a merchant. I can sew reasonably well, and I'm good with numbers." Wade considered this. "Clearwater's growing." The mercantile might need help or the dressmaker, and there's always need for teachers if you have education. I do, Sophia confirmed. My father ensured both my brother and I were well educated. You have a brother? Wade asked, surprised. A shadow passed over Sophia's face. Had. He died at Gettysburg. Wade reached across the table and covered her hand with his. I'm sorry. The war took too many good men. His touch was warm and comforting. Sophia turned her hand to briefly squeeze his before withdrawing. Thank you. It was a long time ago now. After dinner, Wade walked Sophia to the boarding house, a well-maintained two-story building with a wide porch and rocking chairs. Mrs. Winters runs a tight ship, Wade warned her as they approached. No male visitors beyond the parlor, strict curfew, and absolutely no alcohol on the premises. Sophia smiled. After recent events, strict rules sound rather appealing. They stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. The evening was mild, stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Sophia, Wade said, his voice low and earnest, may I call on you tomorrow? I need to visit my brother's ranch, but I could come by in the evening. I'd like that very much, Sophia replied. Wade hesitated, then stepped closer. I know we've only just met, but I feel. He paused, searching for words. I feel as if I've been waiting to meet you without knowing it. The sincerity in his voice made Sophia's heart beat faster. I feel the same way, she admitted. It's unexpected and perhaps unwise, but sometimes the heart knows what the mind hasn't figured out yet, Wade finished for her. He was standing very close now, his eyes asking a question. Sophia gave a small nod and Wade leaned down, his lips meeting hers in a gentle, brief kiss. It was proper enough for a public street but held the promise of deeper feelings. When they parted, Wade's eyes were warm with emotion. Good night, Sophia. Sleep well. Good night, Wade, she replied, her voice slightly breathless. Inside the boarding house, Clara was waiting in the parlor. I was beginning to wonder if you'd decided to skip town again, she teased. Sophia laughed. Just dinner. A very proper dinner. Of course, Clara said, not looking convinced. Mrs. Winters has given you the room next to mine. She wants to meet you before showing you up. Mrs. Winters proved to be exactly as Wade had described, stern but fair, with iron gray hair pulled into a tight bun and spectacles perched on her nose. She examined Sophia critically, asked pointed questions about her background and intentions in Clearwater, and finally nodded her approval. Room and board is $3 a week, payable in advance, she stated. Breakfast at 6, dinner at noon, supper at 6. No gentlemen visitors beyond the parlor, and parlor visits end at 8 in the evening. Is that clear, Miss Montgomery? Perfectly clear, Mrs. Winters. Thank you. The room was small but clean, with a narrow bed, a washstand, a small wardrobe, and a rocking chair by the window. It was more permanent lodging than Sophia had enjoyed in months, and she found herself looking forward to unpacking her few belongings. Clara lingered at the door. So, Wade Dawson, she said with a knowing smile. He seems quite smitten. Sophia busied herself with opening her bag. He's been very kind. Kind is offering to carry your luggage, Clara replied. The way he looks at you goes well beyond kindness. Sophia couldn't suppress her smile. He's coming to call tomorrow evening. Good, Clara said firmly. He's one of the few decent men in these parts. His brother Sam is our school board president, a good man too, with a lovely wife. Wade mentioned them, Sophia said. He clearly thinks highly of his family, Clara nodded. The Dawsons are well respected here. Wade keeps more to himself than Sam, but everyone knows he's a man of his word. After Clara left, Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, contemplating how dramatically her plans had changed in just 2 days. Instead of continuing her solitary journey west, she was now in a small Wyoming town, with a room of her own and the promise of seeing Wade Dawson again. For the first time in 3 years, she felt a sense of possibility, of hope. It was both exhilarating and frightening. She had learned the hard way that life could change in an instant, that security was an illusion. But as she prepared for bed in her quiet room, Sophia allowed herself to imagine putting down roots, creating a new home, perhaps even finding love again. The next day dawned bright and clear. After a hearty breakfast with the other boarders, mostly single working women, and one elderly widower, Clara offered to show Sophia around town. "I don't have classes today," she explained. "The children are helping with harvest." Clearwater revealed itself to be a pleasant community. Unlike many frontier towns that consisted of little more than a main street, it had grown organically, with side streets and neighborhoods developing as the population increased. The business district boasted a bank, a mercantile, a dressmaker's shop, a small restaurant, and various other establishments necessary for frontier life. The town was founded just after the war, Clara explained as they walked. Started as a trading post, but grew when ranchers began settling the valley. The railroad's supposed to come through next year, which will change everything. They stopped at the mercantile, where Clara introduced Sophia to the owner, Mr. Wilson, a balding man with friendly eyes and flour-dusted hands. "My wife handles most of the store these days," he explained. "I run the bakery in the back. Always did prefer baking to selling. Mr. Wilson makes the best sourdough bread west of the Mississippi," Clara told Sophia. "And Mrs. Wilson is active in the Town Improvement Society. If you're looking for work, she might know of opportunities." Mrs. Wilson, a plump, energetic woman with a practical manner, was indeed helpful. "The hotel needs a desk clerk since Miss Abernathy got married last month, and Dr. Lewis mentioned needing someone to help organize his office and keep his books. He's terrible with paperwork." Sophia thanked her for the information. "I'll inquire at both places." By midday, Sophia had secured a position as Dr. Lewis's assistant, starting the following Monday. The doctor, a harried, middle-aged man with kind eyes, had been visibly relieved when she mentioned her experience with bookkeeping. 3 days a week to start, he had offered. More if the work demands it, $50 a day, which is fair wages for these parts. Sophia had accepted immediately, pleased at the prospect of steady income. "That was quick," Clara remarked as they ate lunch at the small cafe. "You've been in town less than a day and already have employment." "I've learned not to hesitate when opportunity presents itself," Sophia replied. "And it will be interesting work, I think." Clara studied her thoughtfully. "You're planning to stay then, not just passing through?" Sophia considered the question. "I think I'd like to stay at least for a while. Clearwater feels welcoming. And it has nothing to do with a certain rancher." Clara teased. Sophia smiled. "Perhaps he's part of the welcome." The afternoon passed quickly as Sophia continued settling in. She purchased a few necessities at the mercantile: soap, hairpins, a notebook, and pencil. She wrote a letter to Elizabeth, sending it with the westbound stage to be forwarded from Montana. She even indulged in a new ribbon for her hair, a deep blue that reminded her of Wade's eyes. As evening approached, Sophia found herself growing nervous about Wade's visit. She changed into her best dress, a dark green cotton with modest lace at the collar and cuffs, and arranged her hair carefully, threading the new blue ribbon through her auburn locks. Wade arrived precisely at 6, hat in hand, his tall frame filling the doorway of Mrs. Winter's parlor. He had clearly made an effort with his appearance. His clothes were clean and pressed, his dark hair neatly combed, his beard trimmed. "Miss Montgomery," he greeted her formally, aware of Mrs. Winters hovering nearby. "You look lovely this evening." "Thank you, Mr. Dawson," Sophia replied, equally formal. "It's good to see you again." Mrs. Winters cleared her throat. "You may use the parlor until 8 o'clock, Miss Montgomery. I'll be in my office if needed." Once they were alone, though the parlor door remained properly open, Wade's expression softened. "You really do look beautiful, Sophia. You clean up rather well yourself," she replied with a smile. "How was your visit to your brother's ranch?" "Good," Wade said, sitting across from her in a cushioned chair. "The children are growing like weeds. Mary, that's Sam's wife, sent along some preserves for you, a welcome gift." He indicated a small jar on the side table. "That's very kind of her," Sophia said, touched by the gesture from someone she hadn't even met. "I might have mentioned you," Wade admitted. "Once or twice. Or perhaps the entire time I was there." Sophia laughed softly. "And what did you tell them about me?" "That you're beautiful and brave and intelligent," Wade replied without hesitation. "That meeting you has been the most unexpected blessing." His direct manner both flustered and pleased Sophia. "You hardly know me," she reminded him. "I know enough," Wade said simply. "I know you've faced hardship with courage. I know you're independent but not afraid to accept help when needed. I know your smile makes me forget whatever I was about to say." Sophia felt a warmth spread through her chest. "You're quite the poet, Wade Dawson." "Only around you," he replied with a self-deprecating smile. "Normally, I'm a man of few words." They talked until Mrs. Winters pointedly came to wind the grandfather clock at 5 minutes to 8. Wade took the hint and rose to leave. "May I see you tomorrow?" he asked. "Perhaps a ride out to the countryside if the weather holds. I could show you some of the valley." "I'd like that," Sophia agreed, "though I don't have a horse." "I'll arrange everything," Wade assured her. 11 o'clock. After he left, Sophia sat in the parlor a moment longer, savoring the warm glow of his company. Clara found her there, a knowing smile on her face. "That good, him?" she asked, sitting beside Sophia on the sofa. "He's—" Sophia searched for words. "He's unlike anyone I've ever met." "The quiet ones often surprise you," Clara observed. "So, what's next?" "A ride tomorrow," Sophia said. "He wants to show me the valley." Clara nodded approvingly. "It's beautiful country. You'll enjoy it." The next day dawned clear and mild, perfect weather for riding. Sophia dressed practically in her simplest skirt and shirtwaist, with boots borrowed from Clara, who was fortunately the same size. Wade arrived promptly at 11 with 2 horses, his Palomino and a gentle-looking bay mare. "This is Daisy," he said, introducing Sophia to the mare. "She belongs to my niece, but she's calm and well-trained, perfect for someone who hasn't ridden much." "What makes you think I haven't ridden much?" Sophia asked, slightly affronted. Wade's eyes twinkled. "Just a guess. Am I wrong?" Sophia sighed. "No, you're not wrong. I rode occasionally in Boston, but always side saddle in a park. Nothing like this." "Daisy will take good care of you," Wade promised, helping her mount. They rode at a leisurely pace, leaving the town behind and following a well-worn trail into the surrounding countryside. The valley opened before them, a patchwork of ranches and farms nestled between rolling hills. In the distance, mountains rose against the sky, their peaks still snow-capped despite the mild autumn weather. "It's beautiful," Sophia breathed, taking in the vast landscape. "This is why I stayed," Wade told her. "First time I saw this valley, something in me just settled, like I'd found where I was meant to be." They rode for nearly an hour, Wade pointing out landmarks and sharing stories about the area. Eventually, they came to a small creek shaded by cottonwood trees, their leaves golden in the autumn light. "Good place to rest the horses," Wade suggested, dismounting and helping Sophia down. The touch of his hands at her waist sent a pleasant shiver through her. They sat on a fallen log beside the creek, listening to the water gurgle over stones. Wade had brought a small bundle of food, bread, cheese, and apples which they shared companionably. "Tell me more about your life before," Wade said after a while. "Your family in Boston." Sophia gazed at the flowing water. "We lived comfortably, not wealthy but secure. My father taught literature at the university. My mother gave piano lessons. My brother James was studying law before the war called him away." "And you?" Wade prompted. "What were your dreams then?" "I thought I might teach someday," Sophia admitted. "I loved learning, loved books. But then the war came and James died and my father's health began to fail. By the time I was 20, both my parents were gone and the creditors took almost everything." Wade's hand found hers, warm and reassuring. "I'm sorry you lost so much." Sophia turned to him with a small smile. "Life continues. We adapt." "Yes, we do," Wade agreed. "But that doesn't make the losses any easier to bear." Something in his tone made Sophia wonder about his own losses. "What about you? You mentioned fighting in the war." Wade was quiet for a moment. "I was young, joined up in '64 near the end, saw enough fighting to last a lifetime, came home to find my parents struggling to keep the farm going. My father died a year later, heart just gave out. Mother followed within 6 months. And you and Sam decided to come west." Wade nodded. "Sam had a wife and baby by then. We sold the farm, split the money, and headed for opportunity. Sam was always the settler, wanted land, a home, a place to raise his family. I was still restless, needed to keep moving for a while. Until you found this valley," Sophia finished for him. "Until I found this valley," Wade confirmed. He looked at her, his blue eyes serious. "And now I've found something else worth staying for." The directness of his statement took Sophia's breath away. "Wade." He leaned closer, his voice soft. "I know it's fast, Sophia. I know we've only just met, but I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to find you." This time when he kissed her, there was no audience to consider, no propriety to maintain. His lips were warm and insistent, his hand gentle at the back of her neck. Sophia responded with a passion that surprised her, her hands finding the solid warmth of his shoulders. When they finally parted, both were breathing unevenly. Wade rested his forehead against hers. "I'm falling in love with you, Sophia Montgomery. I need you to know that." Sophia closed her eyes, savoring the moment, the words. "I think I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. "And it terrifies me." Wade drew back slightly to look at her. "Why does it frighten you?" "Because I've lost everyone I've ever loved," Sophia said simply. "Because loving someone means risking that pain again." Understanding filled Wade's eyes. "I can't promise nothing will ever happen to me or to you. Life doesn't offer those guarantees, but I can promise that whatever time we have, whether it's days or decades, I'll spend it trying to make you happy." The sincerity in his voice brought tears to Sophia's eyes. "That's a good promise," she said softly. They stayed by the creek a while longer, talking, sharing occasional kisses, beginning to build the foundation of something lasting. When they finally mounted their horses for the ride back to town, Sophia felt as if her life had shifted on its axis. The directionless journey she had been on for 3 years had suddenly found purpose. The weeks that followed fell into a pleasant rhythm. Sophia worked for Dr. Lewis 3 days a week, organizing his chaotic office and bringing order to his financial records. The doctor was appreciative and kind, often telling her, "You're a godsend, Miss Montgomery. I haven't been able to find a patient file this quickly in years." On her days off, Sophia explored Clearwater, making friends and gradually becoming part of the community. Clara introduced her to the Ladies' Aid Society, where she helped sew quilts for families in need. Mrs. Wilson invited her to join the Town Improvement Committee, which was planning a Christmas festival, and every evening Wade came to call. Sometimes they sat in Mrs. Winter's parlor. Sometimes they walked along the town's quiet streets, and on Sundays they rode out into the countryside. Each meeting deepened their connection, their conversations ranging from childhood memories to hopes for the future. 1 month after her arrival in Clearwater, Wade invited Sophia to Sunday dinner at his brother's ranch. "Sam and Mary are eager to meet you properly," he explained. "And the children have been pestering me about Uncle Wade's lady friend." Sophia felt both honored and nervous. "I'd love to come." The Dawson Ranch was impressive, a large main house, several outbuildings, and extensive corrals and pastures. Sam Dawson proved to be a taller, broader version of Wade, with the same blue eyes but a more outgoing manner. Mary was a pretty woman with a practical air and a warm smile that immediately put Sophia at ease. "We're so pleased Wade has found someone special," Mary said as she showed Sophia around the house. "He's been alone too long." "We're still getting to know each other," Sophia demurred, though her heart warmed at being called someone special. "The way he talks about you, I'd say he knows what he wants," Mary replied with a knowing smile. The Dawson children, 10-year-old Thomas, 8-year-old Emma, and 5-year-old Michael, were curious and lively, bombarding Sophia with questions and showing her their various treasures. "Uncle Wade said you lived in Boston," Emma said, wide-eyed. "Did you see the ocean every day?" Sophia laughed. "Not every day, but often. It's magnificent, stretching as far as you can see, always changing colors with the weather." "Someday I'm going to see it," Emma declared with the certainty of childhood. Dinner was a noisy, joyful affair, with hearty food and easy conversation. Sophia watched Wade with his family, how gentle he was with the children, how he and Sam communicated with just a look or a nod, the brotherly teasing that spoke of deep affection. After the meal, while Mary put the younger children to bed, Sam invited them to sit on the wide porch. The evening was cool but pleasant, the sky ablaze with stars. "So, Miss Montgomery," Sam began, his tone friendly, "what do you think of our little corner of Wyoming?" "It's growing on me," Sophia replied honestly. "The landscape is so different from what I'm used to, but there's a beauty to it that's undeniable." "And the people," Sam pressed, his eyes twinkling much like Wade's did when he was amused. Sophia smiled. "I've found them to be kind and welcoming, especially your family." "Some more welcoming than others, I'd wager," Sam said, glancing at his brother. Wade cleared his throat. "Enough interrogation, Sam," Sam laughed. "Just making conversation, little brother." He turned back to Sophia. "Wade tells me you're working for Doc Lewis." "I am," Sophia confirmed. "It's interesting work, and the doctor is very kind." "He's a good man," Sam agreed. "Delivered all 3 of our children. Saved Mary when she had fever after Michael was born." The conversation drifted to town matters, the upcoming harvest festival, and plans for winter. Throughout it all, Sophia was aware of Wade beside her, his occasional glances, the way his hand found hers in the gathering darkness. When it was time to leave, Sam pulled Wade aside for a brief, private conversation while Mary hugged Sophia warmly. "You must come again," she insisted. "And next time stay longer. The children adore you already." On the ride back to town, with the moon lighting their way, Wade seemed thoughtful. "Everything all right?" Sophia asked. "You're quiet tonight," Wade smiled at her. "Just thinking about how right you looked there with my family. As if you belonged." "I felt welcome," Sophia said. "They're wonderful people." "Sam approves," Wade told her. "Not that I needed his approval, but it matters to me that he likes you." "And does he?" Sophia asked, curious. "He said I'd be a fool to let you get away," Wade replied with a soft laugh. "As if I didn't know that already." They rode in companionable silence for a while, The only sounds the steady rhythm of hooves and the occasional night bird's call. "Sophia," Wade said eventually, "there's something I want to ask you." Her heart quickened. "Yes." Wade reined his horse to a stop, and Sophia did the same. In the moonlight, his expression was earnest, almost vulnerable. "I know it hasn't been very long," he began, "but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I love you, Sophia Montgomery. I want to build a life with you if you'll have me." Sophia's breath caught. "Wade, are you?" He reached across the space between their horses to take her hand. "I'm asking if you'll marry me, be my wife, my partner, share my home and my life." Tears filled Sophia's eyes, but they were tears of joy. The answer required no thought, no deliberation. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Wade's face lit up with such happiness that Sophia's heart nearly burst. He quickly dismounted and came to help her down from her horse. The moment her feet touched the ground, he swept her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that left her breathless. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "I'll spend every day making sure you never regret saying yes." Sophia laughed softly, joy bubbling up inside her. "I could never regret choosing you, Wade Dawson." They rode back to town hand in hand, making plans and sharing dreams. They would marry soon, before winter set in. Sophia would move to Wade's ranch, which would no longer be a solitary place but a home filled with love. They talked of improvements to the cabin, of gardens to plant in spring, of children they might have someday. The news of their engagement spread quickly through Clearwater. Clara was delighted, Mrs. Winters grudgingly approving, and Dr. Lewis genuinely pleased, though concerned about losing his efficient assistant. "You'll still work for me until the wedding, I hope," he said when Sophia told him. "Of course, Doctor," she assured him, "and perhaps occasionally afterwards if you need help with the quarterly accounts." Letters arrived from Rosalie and Elizabeth, both expressing delight at Sophia's news. "I knew it from the moment I saw him look at you," Elizabeth wrote. "Some connections are simply meant to be." The wedding was set for the first Saturday in November, giving them just a month to prepare. It would be a simple ceremony in the Clearwater Church, followed by a celebration at Sam and Mary's ranch. As the day approached, Sophia found herself reflecting on the strange twists of fate that had brought her to this moment. If she hadn't been in that saloon in Broken Ridge, if she hadn't been imprisoned in that cellar, if Wade hadn't heard about their plight and come to their rescue. "It's as if all the hardships were leading me to you," she told Wade one evening as they sat in Mrs. Winters' parlor, making final wedding arrangements. Wade took her hand, his thumb tracing patterns on her palm. "I've thought the same thing. Every choice, every step good or bad brought us to that moment. And now here we are," Sophia said, still somewhat amazed by how dramatically her life had changed. "Here we are," Wade agreed, his eyes warm with love, "and here we'll stay." The wedding day dawned clear and crisp, with just enough bite in the air to remind everyone that winter was approaching. Sophia dressed in Mary's sewing room, helped by Clara, Mary, and to everyone's delight, both Rosalie and Elizabeth, who had traveled to Clearwater for the occasion. "I wouldn't have missed this for the world," Elizabeth said as she helped arrange Sophia's hair. "To think if we hadn't all been locked in that cellar. We might never have met," Rosalie finished. "Strange how things work out." Sophia's wedding dress was simple but elegant cream-colored silk ordered from Denver, with lace at the collar and cuffs. Her hair was arranged in soft curls, decorated with small white flowers from Mary's greenhouse. "You look beautiful," Clara said, stepping back to admire the effect. "Wade won't know what hit him." Mary handed Sophia a small package. "Something borrowed," she explained. "My mother's earrings. I wore them at my wedding too." The pearl earrings complemented the dress perfectly. Sophia hugged Mary, overwhelmed by the kindness she had been shown by the Dawson family. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." The church was filled with townsfolk some Sophia knew well, others only in passing, but all wishing the couple well. As she walked down the aisle on Dr. Lewis's arm, he had offered to give her away as she had no family present. Sophia saw only Wade, standing tall and handsome at the altar, his eyes filled with love and wonder. The ceremony was brief but meaningful, their vows spoken clearly and with conviction. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Wade's kiss was gentle but full of promise. The celebration afterward was joyous, abundant food, music provided by local musicians, dancing that continued well into the evening. Wade and Sophia moved among their guests, accepting congratulations and well wishes. "Mrs. Dawson," Wade murmured in her ear during a quiet moment. "How does it sound?" "Perfect," Sophia replied, leaning into his embrace. "Absolutely perfect." As the party continued, Sophia found a moment to speak with her three friends from the Cellar, Clara, Rosalie, and Elizabeth, now gathered together for the first time since their ordeal. "I never properly thanked you all," Sophia said, "for your friendship during that terrible night and after." "We should be thanking you," Elizabeth replied. "If you hadn't decided to stay in Clearwater, we might never have reunited. And you certainly wouldn't have thrown this lovely party," Rosalie added with a smile. Clara raised her glass. "To unexpected friendships and happy endings. And to cellar doors being kicked open by handsome cowboys," Elizabeth added, making them all laugh. As the evening drew to a close, Wade and Sophia prepared to leave for their new home, now their home together. The guests lined up outside, tossing flower petals as the couple mounted their horses for the short ride to Wade's ranch. "Ready?" Wade asked, his eyes shining with love and anticipation. Sophia smiled, her heart full to bursting. "Ready." They rode side by side through the crisp autumn night, the stars overhead like a canopy of diamonds. Sophia thought about the journey that had brought her here, the losses, the wandering, the uncertainty, and finally, unexpectedly, the love that had found her in the most unlikely of circumstances. Wade's ranch came into view, the sturdy cabin with light glowing in the windows. Sam had ridden ahead to light the lamps. The barn and corrals beyond, the rolling pasture island stretching into the darkness. "Welcome home, Mrs. Dawson," Wade said softly as they dismounted. "Home." The word resonated in Sophia's heart as Wade swept her into his arms to carry her across the threshold. She had been searching for it for so long, not just a place, but a feeling, a belonging. Inside, the cabin was warm and welcoming. Wade had made improvements in anticipation of bringing his bride home: new curtains at the windows, a larger bed with a colorful quilt made by Mary, a comfortable chair by the fireplace where Sophia could read or sew. "It's perfect," Sophia whispered, taking it all in. Wade set her down gently but kept his arms around her. "It wasn't until now. It was just a place to sleep. You make it a home." Their first night as husband and wife was everything Sophia had dreamed: tender, passionate, filled with whispered words of love and promises for the future. As she drifted to sleep in Wade's arms, Sophia felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The journey that had begun in fear and darkness in a saloon cellar had led her to light and love. The seasons turned, and Sophia and Wade settled into married life with a joy that only deepened with time. Winter brought snow that blanketed the valley in pristine white, keeping them close to home. They spent long evenings by the fire, reading aloud to each other, making plans for the spring, learning the rhythms of shared life. Spring came with a burst of green across the valley, and with it, news that brought fresh joy. Sophia was expecting their first child. "A baby," Wade whispered in wonder when she told him, his hand gentle on her still flat abdomen. "Our baby." Sophia covered his hand with hers. "Our family is beginning." As summer approached, bringing wildflowers to the meadows and new calves to the herd, Sophia often thought about how dramatically her life had changed in less than a year. From a woman adrift, seeking a place to belong, she had become a wife, soon to be a mother, rooted in a community and surrounded by love. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Wade took her hand. "Are you happy, Sophia?" he asked. "Truly happy." Sophia leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "More than I ever thought possible," she replied honestly. "Sometimes I wonder if that night in Broken Ridge was the worst or the best thing that ever happened to me." Wade chuckled softly. "I'd say it was both. The worst circumstances leading to the best outcome. 4 women locked in a saloon cellar," Sophia mused, "and a cowboy who kicked down the door and led them out. Who would have thought it would change all our lives?" "I thank God every day that I overheard those men talking," Wade said, his arm tightening around her. "That I found you." "And I thank God that I found the courage to stay," Sophia replied, "to trust in love again." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land they now shared, Sophia felt the baby move within her, a flutter like butterfly wings, a promise of future joy. From the darkest moments of fear had come this abundance of love, this life filled with purpose and belonging. Wade kissed her tenderly as the first stars appeared in the deepening blue of the evening sky. "I love you, Sophia Dawson." "And I love you, Wade Dawson," she replied, her heart overflowing with gratitude for the journey that had brought her home at last. Today, tomorrow, and all the days to come,